When seniors make that tough decision that it's time to downsize to a smaller home, it's never easy. Most likely they've lived in this home for years. It's the family home. That's where they raise their kids, and they've made a ton of memories in this home. So it's not surprising that this is a very emotional time for them. The stress of thinking of all the steps that need to be accomplished from point A to point B can be overwhelming. And maybe layered on top of all of this is a health issue that's necessitating the move, which causes further stress and anxiety. Making this decision to move to an apartment or an assisted living or independent living under all these circumstances is certainly a large task to bear. Where do they begin? Who do they call? Is there anybody that can help them? And how is it all going to work? Now, these are the questions that a lot of seniors have making this transition. And today, my guest is Tisa Johnson. Tisa Johnson is owner of Senior Transitioning Services in Central Iowa. And she's going to answer these questions for us. Thank you so much.
You're sure welcome. So thank you very much for having me. And I think you couldn't sum up any better the reason why a service like ours, exists in the way you describe what for most people facing a later in life, move or transition means. So I appreciate you having me.
How about if we start with, you tell us how your company came to be.
Sure. So I sort of fell into this work by watching my dad. He and my stepmom live in Cedar Rapids, and he found himself late in his career the executive director of a large senior living community. And in that work, he would see folks come in all the time who would say, I guess if we're not going to be in our current place, we can sort of see ourselves here. And then they go home to the home they've lived in for 10 or 20, or our record is 72 years, and look around and think, well, how in the world would we actually get, from here to there? How would this ever work? And so he started to help people with that as a post kind of retirement gig. And over time, this kind of work developed a name and a industry trade group, et cetera, called Senior Move Management. But it's not something that people here in central Iowa necessarily have a lot of familiarity with. So I don't often tell people that that's what we do, because I hope in a few years, many people will know what that means. But I recognize what he was doing as kind of social worky, which was my background. I was a hospice social worker, among other things. And I thought, there's all of this stress and overwhelm that comes with this process. And there really are things that a neutral outside party with some know-how and some energy can do to sort of lift some of the logistics of it. And so that's how I thought, maybe I'll just dip my little toe and see if this could be something in the Des Moines area. And he was kind of on his way out to sell his company and retire fully at that point. And so it just sort of went gangbusters because there is just a tremendous need. And so now I have a team of 16. We've been at it since 2015.
Wow.
We do 2 or 3 or 4 moves a week of all different sizes and natures and nature. And we've done over 500 moves in that time. So we learn something new all the time, and not all of our clients are moving. And we certainly learn something every time, but we have developed some street knowledge. And then that kind of gives me fuel for things to talk about.
So one of my questions would be, do you see people before they make that decision, or see them, or do they call you before or after they've made that decision?
Sure. I would say more often than not, if they hear about us because they have in fact decided to move, maybe it's to a senior living community and someone at the senior living community mentioned them to us or mentioned us to them. But I will say that we love when we get to meet people even before they're, confronting a decision or deciding on an apartment, et cetera, because there is so much stress relief that can come with some good pre-planning, sort of having an idea of a strategy and how you might go about it can really help eliminate some of the stress and anxiety, and maybe even some of the work that people have done that maybe they didn't necessarily have to spend their energy on. If they had, kind of had a different strategy before they started. So more often than not, they find out about us because they have decided to move, and that's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
But we find that we get the most satisfaction about helping people. The earlier, the better, even if we're not actively doing anything, just helping them maybe enjoy their time in their home a little bit, more,
Mhm.
because they are not facing the moving process as a 2 or 3 year process, but maybe something that can actually be accomplished in a much shorter period of time.
Okay. Scenario then. So, I've made the decision to move to a senior community. I've been in my home for over 40, 50 years. It's much more space than I need. The kids have left. Um, I'm experiencing a few health issues.
Mhm.
Can't take care of the home the way I used to. And I've heard of your company. So, uh, you know, I just don't know how it's all going to work. So I call you.
Mhm.
Then what happens?
Then all of our services start with a very free initial visit, and there's no pressure on that visit at all. And most of the time, that means we come out to your home. There's been scenarios where folks have said, let's meet at a coffee shop and get to know each other. First, it can be lots of things, or let's have a Zoom with the kids from, out of town and have a kind of a family conference call. So it can take lots of forms, but usually come to your house because it's easier if we're putting our eyeballs on it, at the same time. We sort of talk through maybe what various strategies, might be for how to get from here to there. And most important among those for me is helping folks think through what I think of as the order of events, because what you do and how you do it really can largely be determined by if you've got a home to sell, is the home going on the market first and then the move? Are we doing things to get the house ready to go? Are we focusing more on the move first and then thinking about, making plans to get the house on the market, sort of in what order things will happen? And then we usually take a tour of the house and kind of get an idea of, okay, here's the slice of things that I think I want to move with me, and here's things that need some other solution, some way or another. Or my son from Colorado is going to come over spring break and take, this slice of things, et cetera. So just kind of getting to know you and your situation. And from there, we do our pricing. And we leave everything that we talk about in writing, in a folder with you. So it's a very low pressure, situation. And then ask you to call us if like to talk more. So it's usually, I tell people, I don't think usually people ever feel like it's a waste of time, even if what results from that conversation is, oh, I bet my daughter from Georgia could come do this part of it. And I bet, we can handle this, or we don't need that. Sometimes just the reassurance can be helpful.
Mhm.
But the getting to some sort of strategy, I feel like really can turn down the anxiety when you sort of know how I would put one foot in front of the other. So that's usually what we get to in that free initial visit, whether or not folks hire us we say, you start paying us when you say, come bring a box, and let's get to it. So that's how it starts. For clients in your situation where you know where you're moving, what happens next is a visit both to your home where we're doing measuring, et cetera, and picturing what it is that you want to bring. And then we usually go to the new place, usually with you, but it doesn't have to be, and really look around and get a good understanding of what it is how you picture the space. So here's where the couch is going to go, and here's where I want the TV, and oh, look, there is a cable outlet
Mhm.
there, so that'll work great. Or, oh, do we need a TV mount? How is all this going to work? Yep, we've measured your TV stands, and sometimes we even put down painter's tape on the ground to really help folks visualize how the furniture. We can also use floor planning software if folks want as well. But more important than the floor planning, we feel, is what we think of as space planning, because it's real easy to get caught up in the will my table and chairs fit, fine in this area or not. But what we are trying to help people avoid is bringing the sense of overwhelm that they feel maybe in their current home and bringing it to the new place. So we want to help folks make a move that makes sense for the new space. So we do some pretty specific things like measuring how much hanging space there is, in the closet, because the physics of that really can determine how many clothes, can be accommodated in that closet.
Right.
Thinking through, how the kitchen is configured and noticing things like how wide the drawers are, and do you need a different trash can than the one, that you have at home, and this looks like a lot of closets, but when you start really thinking, well, there's no separate linen closet here. So what kind of things would maybe belong in this closet? The reason we do that is to help people for really two reasons. One is to help folks not overshoot their runway, because I feel like the most stressful thing that can happen for most people is they bring too much, and then they start their new chapter with projects. And again, that sense of overwhelm, what you were looking for in simplicity has already been negated.
Right.
But
Right.
also out of that visit to both places, we give folks what we call a task list, which is sort of like your homework. So if your clothes can easily be accommodated in that new closet, then between now and the move, maybe you don't need to spend any time on clothes at all. Cross it off the list. Don't worry about it. But if you have 3 bookshelves at home and you need to get down to 2 that will fit, then on your homework list would be take things off this bookshelf and put it on the other so that these bookshelves look the way that you want them to. So it helps people to sort of say, all right, if I can check these things off my list, then I'll be ready to move. I know exactly what I need to do. And then don't spend time on, anything else maybe. And then what follows from there, we use a silly little sticker system with little colored dots that we give people that help them sort of do this sorting without necessarily making a giant mess of their house. So in the linen closet, you might put green stickers on the shelves of things that move and red stickers on the shelves of things that don't move. That tells you you've made a decision. It tells your daughter-in-law when she comes over the weekend, what's going on in there in that closet. It tells anybody who packs you, including us, that those things on the green shelves get packed in a box. And then for furniture pieces, it tells the movers this couch and recliner get on the truck, but maybe this one that has a red sticker on it, does not get on the truck and go to the new place. So we come and pack all in one day. So using that sticker system and planning together, we bring all the packing materials and pack the day before the moving truck comes, a team of 3 to 5 people usually. We have a pretty good system for folks to live in their home on the last night there fairly comfortably. Your TV's still plugged in. You can use your bathroom, you sleep in your bed, coffee pot's there, all of those, a team of 3 to 5 people usually. Things. Then in the morning, we come with the moving truck and we are putting the fridge food in the fridge and getting the last of the towels out of the bathroom and all those last minute things. And we go over to the new place and we typically unpack and set up all in one day. So if the bookshelf moves or the china hutch moves with everything in it, just like it was before, we've taken pictures of that and then we put it back together. So by the time we leave on the afternoon that the moving truck came, silverware's in the drawers, coats in the closets, beds made, lamps on, TV connected, and all of the boxes we take away at that point. So of course, it's not going to feel like home. It would be silly of me to say that to anyone. It would feel very bizarre. But usually the reaction we get is, oh, this looks so much more familiar than I thought it would. Because look, you took what was on my desk and put it right back on my desk where things, have always been. And when I sit down in my recliner, what's always been next to me on my side table, the Kleenex box and then the remote and the crossword puzzles, are all there. So we try to make it the least discombobulating, that it can be. And then over
Right.
time, of course, as folks settle in, then they rearrange their decor and figure out what kitchen system, maybe works better for them.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then we conclude with a follow-up visit after a few days where we make tweaks to anything, move furniture around or make any adjustments, and usually hang pictures at that time too. So that's sort of kind of the anatomy, if you will, of a move.
Mhm.
We have clients who are participating in every, moment of it, and others who say, I'm going out to lunch and call me, when it's over. And our
That would be me.
And our philosophy really is, this is your home, your things, your move. We aren't the judge and jury of what you can bring or shouldn't bring. I tell people all the time, if you want to fill your entire kitchen with Oreos, we will do that. But if you also want a mug for your milk, then we need to talk about,
Yes.
where that's going to go. Our whole approach really is that you are the decision, maker. We can be guidance and know-how and energy and cheerfulness and all of those things. But our clients really drive the bus, as you will.
Well, and you just describing, kind of point A to point Z, um, already makes me feel less stressful. I mean, physically, I don't have to move things. You help me move everything and arrange things, and it just sounds so easy. My question is, a lot of people, they've got stuff. That's the biggest stressor, is how do I get rid of all this stuff? And what's your take on that? How do you help them, remove or decide what to take, what to leave, and what to sell and donate, and et cetera?
Yeah, perfect question. So in the situation that you were describing, I was kind of making the assumption that often when folks say we've decided on I've decided to move to senior living, I've picked this place and this apartment. So usually that means that move is coming, rather quickly. You have 30 or 60 days to move in before you start paying rent or, et cetera, on that place. In the situation where you're describing, we are thinking about the move first and then dealing with what's left in the house. It doesn't always have to be that way. There's homes where we are helping declutter and do things to get ready for the listing, and then there'll be the move once the house sells. There's all different ways to do it. But regardless, for most of our clients, we are also helping them with what you are talking about in one way, shape, or form. So for most families, what they have left after a move or as they plan their move is some combination of selling, donating, shredding, shipping, storage, electronics, recycling, you name it, trash, plain trash. And we try to help them see their way, through that. There's lots of different mechanisms, and I wish I could tell you there was one size fits all or a magic, wand for it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is that ultimately everything comes down to the equation of time versus stress versus money, time versus hassle versus money. So for an example, you might say, well, I want to, and we're not the judge and jury of it. Some might say, well, we'll have some garage sales, to get rid of what's left or to try to sell what's left. And that is what I would say, high on hassle, because garage sales are a ton of work,
Mm-hmm.
and then all it takes is one rainstorm or a bad day, hot day, and you might have $25 in your pocket, but you've still got a driveway, full of things that need to get rid of. So you can hear I'm not a fan of garage sales, but so that would be like one way to not spend any money, and try to sell as many things as possible. For others, it might be helping to connect them with a tag sale company. A tag sale can be a very cost-efficient way to get from a full house to an empty house without anyone making trips to donation sources or doing any other work. There's lots of pros and cons involved with tag sales, but we try to, help people work their way through that. We do lots of home emptying where maybe it's the family has identified these are the things that they want, and maybe we're even packing and shipping them to them for them. Maybe we've even determined a lot of this over Zoom. Or we are moving a big chunk of things from a house, like something like a pod or something similar. Um, Maybe it's they say, we've taken what we want and now we want to turn it over to you with your know-how to figure out, okay, these are the things that can go to this, to the Habitat for Humanity free store. That's who would take this kind of thing. How do we deal with beds? Well, that's a tricky, question. So we're going to turn it over to you and let you sort out and figure out, how to get to an empty house. Well, we can arrange movers to come take it all, and that happens frequently. We're going to have movers come all in one day, and we're going to have them take this to the son's house in Altoona, and this to the daughter's home in Grimes, and this to a consignment store, and this to donation, and then we're having a trash hauler come in the afternoon, and we're done, in one day. Or it can be, we're going to pack everything for donation and arrange for the, donation folks to
Mhm.
come pick it up. It can be all different things. So what we are trying to do is help people weigh that time versus money versus hassle equation. And as you can imagine, as a real estate professional, sometimes a lot of that equation is determined by the timeline. So if you don't have the house on the market, you have and aren't going to put the house on the market maybe until it's fully empty, you have a little more leeway in terms of waiting for buyers to come pick things up or doing things. If you have found yourself with a cash offer and a quick sale and they want a quick close, then your tolerance for trying to sell versus donate things versus just get things out of the house so you can close, is a
Right.
different matter. So that kind of goes back to that planning, aspect, we don't want to panic empty a house. Although
Right.
usually that means it's good news that they, got a really great offer. But
Mhm.
we try to be more planful than that.
Yeah.
But we can assist people or really take over and execute pretty much any part of that.
How I found out about you was a seller of mine in Johnston. It was it was tough. It was a tough decision. He was very emotional about it because he had been in the house for many, many years, but he raved about you guys and how compassionate you guys were. And you had a lot of empathy for his situation. So that's why I wanted to talk to you, was because I think it really helped him out. And I know he's not the only one out there.
Well, I appreciate those kind words from him. That I would say empathy is sort of our number one value because we meet people in all different socioeconomic, family dynamic, health, situations.
Hmm.
And many of them have not. We only work with older people. So it's normal for us to come in and they say, well, we haven't really been able to keep up with the housework, or gosh, we haven't been in the basement a long time. We don't know what to, expect,
Yeah.
etc. And that's just sort of par for the course, normal stuff. And I've been so fortunate to have my teammates, really just crackerjack individuals who sort of just exude that empathy and really try to help people feel at ease, because it really is the best job. Like, we get to hear the best of people's stories. I mean, we are handling their
Yeah.
most treasured objects and we are looking at their pictures, that are on the
Yes.
wall. And I met with a woman this week who was the 12th of 12. And
Wow.
she was delighted that a new person came in who wanted to hear, about her 11 siblings. Only one was a boy.
Uh,
And I mean, that it really is an honor and a privilege to get to do that, with folks. So the
yes.
empathy thing is pretty easy.
Yes. Well, and I wish I would have known about your services when my dad had been taking care of my mom who had Alzheimer's for years and years and years. And this was in the late 90s. And, my sister and I were doing everything, and it was incredibly difficult. It was difficult for him, his declining health, taking care of her. Um, and, I know we had a tag sale, and it was so sad because it was hard on him to actually be there.
Mhm.
So that's what I like about hearing about how you customize your services to everybody's different situations.
Mhm. And I'm quick to tell people that we aren't there to replace, those loving supportive family members. And then sometimes we become surrogate daughters-in-law for, a period of time to just be those extra hands. But we like to, when families want us to free them up from the logistics of the thing,
Hmm.
so that they can be full supports to their parents. And so many times that means, I don't think mom's going to do well being here while you guys are packing. This is going to feel, just too much for her. So our job as daughters is to go take her to lunch, and then we're going to go buy her new shower curtain, for her new place. And we get to spend time with her instead of coming for the move to move mom and dad, and then spending the whole time building boxes in the garage and, trying to do all these things. We don't have a magic wand for, um, grief or worry about the future or all the other emotions that come, but we can help with the logistics. And so
Hmm.
if families can slough some of that off to us, then they can more properly support their loved one. And if they're not able to be here, they know that there's nice people who are, while we're packing, making sure mom has lunch, and
Right.
yep, we'll take you and the kitty, over, to the new place or whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
to try to ease what is invariably stressful.
What is a question that you get on a regular basis from your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that it is more of a comment than a question. It might come in the form of, what do I do with this stuff? But what they're saying most often is, I have all these things that I think are perfectly usable, and I'm disappointed to think that my kids and grandkids do not want the things that I think that they should want.
Hmm.
And I'm disappointed to think the things that I have saved are not, treasured in the same way by my family, as I have treasured them.
Yeah.
And they are speaking a painful truth there. Again, one of those that no one has a magic wand for. But it is a realism, these days. We hear it from 98% of our clients that, well, the kids don't really want anything. The kids have their own homes. My kids are in their 60s or 70s, and they are thinking about paring down, themselves.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so having those painful, conversations, and also helping them to understand that, just sort of the way the market works for things, especially antiques, these days. So a super great example and very common is China. So they have been told their whole lives, this was great grandma's China, and great grandpa sent it to her from Germany, or it came from Japan, or etc. And it has been a treasured family, heirloom, and it was expensive. It was something that people spent money on and time collecting, etc. And it is just, unfortunately, the reality that everyone in their 80s and 90s has China, or maybe multiple sets of China. And they say to me often, I have 4 daughters and daughters-in-law, and not a single one of them, wants a set of China. And I empathize with that. I tell people, and when I speak to folks, I'm 44. I can't think of a single peer of mine who has a piece of furniture that displays pretty plates. Like, we just, don't. Like, I'm in my dining room right now. It has a farmhouse style table, and that's it. And that's just the way, sort of, it's a more common than not, scenario.
Hmm.
And if I wanted China to display it or to store it, I could have my mom's, my mother-in-law's, my grandma's, my husband's grandma's, 3 or 4 great aunts. There's just lots of China, available. And so it is true, if you walk around any thrift store, there's lots of sets of China there, and there's very little China that has financial value for that reason. It's just a very ubiquitous item with a very funneled, demand or market for it. We try to give them also, while giving them that painful news, many things that people think are junk are actually maybe what's most desirable these days. So you and I might, or they are, my clients might think something from the 20s or 30s is antique. But what many people are looking for these days are what I would call more nostalgic than antique. This is what I sort of glean from all the folks we work,
Okay.
buyers, appraisers, all those things that we work with. So things that are nostalgic of like the 70s are things, or 80s are what's actually has a lot of demand and financial value. So our clients would maybe point at a Pyrex bowl, mixing bowl that they've had literally for 50 years and say, well, that's as old as the hills. And I say that is $50, right there. We had a client in Atlantic recently, and we went through the house with a buyer guy, and everything that was really sellable we brought back to Des Moines, where there's a bigger market. And she was shocked to learn that the things that she was literally ready to call 1-800-GOT-JUNK was actually where her money was, which is old white metal cabinets in the basement, a chrome table, an enamel top table, some of the vinyl chairs accompanying it even had holes. She was ready to send it, to junk. And those were her, not emotional, but financially, those were her
Right.
treasures. She had more financial treasures than she ever dreamed. They just weren't the things that she thought that they, might be.
Yeah. And yet another reason why to call a company like yours is because you don't know. You're a neutral party. Um, so if the kids differ on whether their parents should sell this or not sell that or go there, or and they're ready to make that move, it's kind of nice that you can kind of come in and be a neutral party. And that's great that you mentioned that you could go on Zoom. So no matter where their kids are, you
Mm-hmm.
can all kind of have a meeting on Zoom and really talk it through. So I
Right.
think that's really cool. Um, oh, the other, obviously the fact that you're empathetic and compassionate to their situation goes a long way in your high level of service. And then the last thing, which you were just talking about, you offer the trusted resources and knowledge that not a lot of us have. So because if you work with movers and antique dealers and tag sale people, you know, donation places, and the fact that you have experience with these people and you trust that they're going to do a good job for your clients. I mean, it's much easier than me trying to go through the yellow pages or Google them.
Right. Sure. No,
So,
and we
mm,
kind of hang our hat on the fact that we don't have any financial relationships to anyone but our clients. So we don't have any skin in the game, whether you've got $10 worth of stuff to sell or 10 million. And so our clients pay us for our time, for our, facilitation, et cetera. But I don't have any financial relationship to anyone's things, and I'm not trying to sell them myself. I feel like we do a really good job of trying to walk with folks through a big transition, but I cannot also be the person who says, well, that spoon thing over there is a whatchamadoodle kind of, thing, and here's what its market value is. And so we do rely on, colleagues for that, and we can facilitate a lot of relationships, but I don't have skin in the game.
we're kind of wrapping up this. What locations do you serve? I mean, all of Iowa?
Well, I would say our general rule is within 2 hours of the metro. Now, there are exceptions, but there are other folks who do this work in other places in Iowa. So, and of course around the country. So it's pretty common for us to maybe pack things here and then send them to Texas, where we're collaborating with another senior move manager who's going to catch it, on their end. But it doesn't make sense to go, let's say, to Cedar Rapids, where there are several senior move managers. For us, it wouldn't be cost effective for our clients for us to go there and move them within Cedar Rapids. We do a lot of moving to Des Moines. So we'll go 2 or 3 hours to get someone from somewhere else, and bring them to Des Moines. And then there's a few areas where we spend quite a bit of time where we do move within the community because there's not anybody else to do it. So we spend quite a bit of time in Atlantic, and we'll move people, from town into senior living, or from outside, a smaller community out of town into town. Newton, Ames, we've done quite a bit of that. But I'd say the bulk of our work really is in the metro. And
Okay. Wow. Well, I've certainly learned a lot today. Certainly answered a lot of questions, that I had about this. And I work with, I help the senior community sell homes quite often. So just to, for conclusion on your end, is there anything else that you'd like people to know about your business?
I think that it just because people don't know what even it is that we, might do. It's worth a phone call to me and a free initial visit. We have folks, maybe the most common scenarios, they do plan to move, but we also have done lots of other things that I still sort of consider downsizing or right sizing. And it might be, we want to stay in our house forever and ever, but
Mhm.
that basement keeps us up at night. So we'd really like to deal with the basement and have everything, maybe an empty basement, is the goal, knowing that if and when they ever do want to make a change, that part, is all taken care of. So we have staff who literally bring stuff up from the basement and sit and go through things, with people.
Mhm.
If you need to get from 115 inches of hanging clothes down to 80, then, and you don't want to tackle that yourself, we have staff who will come spend time doing, fashion shows with you, figuring it out. And we even have an arm of our business. We don't love for people to be in this category, but we call it move recovery. When maybe they moved a year ago or more into senior living, and the second bedroom is full of boxes that just never have been able to be unpacked, and they need some help kind of unburying and recovering from their move. So I feel like it never hurts to call and find out whether what maybe you're needing, fits within our
Mhm.
wheelhouse or not.
Yeah. Well, I think your company is fantastic, and a much needed business out there for a lot of people. If you would like to reach Tisa and her company, then I've got all of her information below. So a phone, email, website, so you can get further information. I know she'll really be able to help you. Tisa, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank
Um,
you.
I love that you can offer solutions for seniors to help navigate through this tough time. So thank
Thank
you
you so much.
again.
Mhm.